Alright, so Paper Towns is out now and currently at the top of the UK box office, which means we now have 2 John Green adaptations to enjoy. But which one's better? Which one should you let turn you into an emotional wreck? Well, I'm going to do my best to help you decide, because who better than a guy in his mid-20s to talk you through something aimed at a teenage girl, right? Just warning you now, this video will contain major spoilers for both movies, so if you absolutely don't want to know anything about them, it might be best to come back at a later date, or you can watch my spoiler-free reviews by clicking right here, and I'll add links in the description. So let's start with the obvious, the popcorn rating. I gave both Paper Towns and The Fault in Our Stars 4 popcorns, so that's not really cleared anything up. But to be fair, I was initially going to give The Fault in Our Stars 3, and then decided that was probably just a bit too harsh and bumped it up to 4. Both of these are great at what they do, I'm just not one for sloppy romances. Both movies are based on young adult novels from the same author, but it's not a Nicholas Sparks situation in which every single movie is exactly the same as the last one before it. The Fault in Our Stars is obviously a tragic romance between the lead characters. Paper Towns has elements of that, but it's more about the friendship between the main trio of boys and them trying to get the most out of their time together that they know it was coming to an end. To get right to it, The Fault in Our Stars is the more outright emotional movie. I don't know what happened to John Green, but he's got something against happy endings. I can't deny that people were literally crying in the cinema, and I'm guessing that's true for when you saw it too. Hell, you might even have been one of them. Paper Towns is definitely more upbeat, more charming, and just more honest. I think people are more likely to connect with Paper Towns. A movie about people dying of cancer, especially young people dying of cancer, will maybe not so much push people away, but it's definitely not the most relatable subject. Fault is more sad and poignant, whereas Paper Towns is more humorous and optimistic. I definitely enjoy both, don't get me wrong, but for me, Paper Towns was a more accessible and relatable story. I really did identify with the lead character, and I felt more connected to what was going on screen. And what about the adaptations from book to screen? How faithful are they to the source material? Well, if I'm being completely honest, I haven't read either of the books. Hey, at least I'm equally lazy across the board. As you might be able to tell from my accent, I'm from Glasgow, which means I don't know how to read. You might think that I'm reading from a script right now, but no, I'm actually wearing an earpiece and I'm getting my lines fed to me by somebody a lot more emotionally invested in the subject matter than me, and I smell really bad. Wait, what? Don't make me say that. If, however, The Very Hungry Caterpillar gets turned into a movie, I promise I'll be all over that. From what I hear, both movies are actually very close to their source materials, especially thematically. John Green himself has actually posted a vlog in which he discusses at length the difference between his books and the movies. I'm sure you can easily find it if you want to see it, but to paraphrase, he says that his priority is to make a good movie, not directly translate from text to screen, and he's happy to sacrifice a few plot points in pursuit of that, and I think that most people will agree that that's totally acceptable, and it seems only the most hardcore nerd fighters are unhappy with the changes. With that in mind, the differences between the books and the films shouldn't amount to anything significant, but we'll take a look anyway. We'll start with The Fault in Our Stars, as that seems to be the one most faithful to the book. Bearing in mind that everything I'll say in this section is based on stuff I've researched online, so I can't really confirm or deny either way, but I've checked on multiple sources and it seems legit. So The Fault in Our Stars is apparently very close to the book. From what I can tell, the changes are mostly cosmetic, things that have been done to make a tighter movie. For example, in the book, the Amsterdam dinner with Hazel and Gus takes place outside overlooking the canal. It's a nice thought, but if they'd actually filmed this in the dark next to the canal in Amsterdam, they'd probably still be treating the actors for hypothermia right now. Besides, it's still all romantic and smooshy inside that restaurant, isn't it? Minor characters have been cut, for example Gus's sisters and their husbands and other friends of the lead characters. As well as this, there seems to be some scenes cut out that probably would have made the return of Gus's cancer even more brutal. It's not for me to say why this has been done, but when a book is converted into a movie, certain things just have to go. And what about Paper Towns? Well, this one definitely has some bigger changes between the book and the film. For one, the ending's pretty different. Remember, spoilers. In the book, the characters depart from graduation on the road trip to Aglow in order to find Margo, which they do, sitting in an office chair in a barn writing in her journal. They all then have a bit of a fight and everyone but Quentin and Margo leave. They two then get into it over his romanticism of her, and they spend the night in the barn before departing each other's company. Oh, and this all happens well after prom. In the movie, the gang go on the road trip along with Radar's girlfriend Angela, who wasn't a part of the trip in the book, but they don't actually find Margo at first. They hang around for a while waiting for her to show up, but when she doesn't, they get into an argument with Quentin and leave without him in order to get back in time for prom, which hasn't happened yet. He then stays around for a while before giving up and deciding to get a bus home, at which point he randomly sees Margo pass a convenience store he's inside and he chases after her. They go for milkshakes together, and just like the book, they get into it over his romanticism of her before departing each other's company. Quentin then makes it back in time for prom, cue slow-mo dancing. From what I gather in the book, there's also a sense that Margo might have killed herself, and there's a few references made to this. That's kind of understandably been excluded from the movie, because I think worrying the lead character's love interest was lying dead somewhere would be just a bit too dark for this kind of script. There's a few other things as well, such as Radar's job as an editor of a Wikipedia-type webpage, and the events of Margo and Quentin's night together before she leaves. In the book, there's a point where they break into SeaWorld and get up to mischief there, but since the release of the documentary Blackfish, this has understandably been cut from the movie, and the night's tied up in a different way. John Green himself has stated that he's all for these changes, and in fact he wishes that he had made some of them himself, for example the inclusion of Angela in the road trip. So in terms of faithfulness to the source material, it's a bit of a moot point when the author himself is saying that the movies are great adaptations, but book purists, The Fault in the Stars is the one for you. There's all sorts of things that could be discussed with regards to these films, such as how much money they've made and critical ratings, etc. But I think that's all pretty inconsequential, and the last thing that probably affects your enjoyment of the film is the characters involved. Starting with Nat Wolff, as he's the only actor in both movies, well, apart from a brief cameo. In The Fault in the Stars, he's a secondary character, best friend to Augustus Waters, but in Paper Towns he's been bumped up to leading man, but arguably has the better role in Fault. While he's far from two-dimensional in Paper Towns, his character in Fault has more depth and memorable moments, and yeah, he's the star of Paper Towns, but I think just about everyone left The Fault in the Stars with Nat Wolff's character as their favourite thing about it. There's barely a frame Nat isn't in Paper Towns, and the same goes for Shailene Woodley in The Fault in Her Stars. As Hazel Grey, she has to carry most of the emotional heft of the movie. She's a brilliant actress and is so convincing and sympathetic in the role. Their love interests are played by Cara Delevinge and Ansel Elgort respectively. Cara is the cool one, the untouchable dream girl of Quentin's fantasies, and Ansel is the sort of overly charming, lovable guy that understands what Hazel's going through. I'd love to bash them and talk about how unbelievable it is, but honestly, the roles seem perfectly cast and the charisma and affection between them is profound. Even Cara Delevinge, who arguably has the least acting experience, is brilliant in her role. The supporting cast for both movies also hold up well, but granted, the supporting cast of Paper Towns has much more to do just because of the story. I'm conscious this video is probably already like an hour long, so I can actually see the battery icon flashing on my camera, so I'll probably wrap it up there. There's actually so much more that can be discussed and compared with these movies, but I need to keep it relatively short. All in all, I'd say both are great movies and worthy of your time and money, but if you're looking for a story with a more emotional punch, then Fault in the Stars is the way to go, while if you're looking for a more uplifting, reflective movie, then Paper Towns is the one for you. I definitely identified more with the characters and story of Paper Towns, and it's a shame that these worlds can't be explored more. Or, you know, you could just watch both. Thanks very much for watching my Paper Towns versus The Fault in Our Stars discussion, especially if you made it this far. Wow. Let me know which movie you prefer in the comments, and let me know if you liked this video, because I'm kind of thinking of branching out from more than just, you know, reviews, so I thought this could be a nice departure. Just, it's a shame it's so lengthy. Anyway, subscribe if you want to see more, and check out my reviews for both of these movies if you haven't done so already. Thanks very much, and I'll see you next time.